Meanwhile, the United States has announced a major plan for advanced weapon sales in the Middle East. Under the $10 billion deal, the U.S. will sell sophisticated missiles and aircraft to Israel, the UAE and Saudi Arabia. The Pentagon unveiled the plan ahead of a visit by U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel to the region. Pentagon officials have said the deal is one of the most complex and carefully orchestrated arms packages in American history. Let's talk to Caleb Maupin with the International Action Center from New York. Welcome to the program, sir. Mr. Maupin, it's interesting to see such contradiction, but when would Americans come to their senses and understand the fact that their government is really lying to them and actually committing human rights violations itself?
Well, I think if people in the United States had actually read the UN Declaration of Human Rights and understood that the Declaration of Human Rights includes the right to a job, the right to education, the right to housing, the right to health care, things like that, they would see through all the human rights rhetoric that comes out of the government right now. The big lie is that the U.S. supports democracy all over the world. But guns are being given around the world to Saudi Arabia, it's definitely not a democracy, to Israel that commits crimes against the Palestinian people every day and has all kinds of brutal restrictions, to South Korea where people can be jailed for simply tweeting under the national security laws, which jail people who hold sentiments of peace with their northern country folk in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. All over the world, the U.S. supports governments that are hardly democratic, and it does so while talking about democracy and doing something else in reality.
Indeed, and despite the fact that the Human Rights Council has issued a report against Washington, and of course, what now? I mean, how can Washington be brought to justice in light of the war crimes that is committed and in light of these accusations made by the Human Rights Council?
Well, it's not through bodies, through through international bodies that justice is going to be achieved. Justice has always been won in the streets, and it's been won in revolutions. The Cubans, they defeated the U.S. in a revolution. They drove out the bankers and the corporations. They began constructing a socialist society. The Iranians had the heroic 1979 revolution and kicked out the U.S.-backed dictator, the Shah of Iran. In Venezuela right now, they're struggling to keep their revolution after the Bolivarian revolution brought great gains to the people of Venezuela. So all over the world, people are the U.S., and that is the field in which they can do it. We shouldn't count on these international bodies that are controlled by the United States, which hypocritically talk about human rights when in reality carry out something else. And the National Endowment for Democracy, a U.S. government wing of the Pentagon, that's essentially part of their propaganda apparatus, spends a lot of money to try and promote this kind of human rights propaganda and feed the agenda of wars abroad. And anyone who knows anything about the actual practices of the U.S. internationally wouldn't believe a word that comes out of the National Endowment for Democracy because it simply preaches propaganda. It's the U.S. that is fomenting, the human rights violations all over the world, murdering people, destroying people, and backing up governments that are not supported by their people but obey the will of Wall Street.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for the time being. Many thanks to Caleb Maupin with the International Action Center from New York.